Can you build a Hoik in CoreKeeper? In short, no, but you can make something quite similar. Hello, Zero Gravitas here, welcome to my no-expense spared dirt floor laboratory. So why do I say this isn't a Hoik, and what is that anyway? For those who are not already familiar with Terraria's best kept glitch, I would define a Hoik as a passive structure that kicks the player or other game entities along a fixed route. Blocks are hammered into slopes to exploit the very specific ways that these displace entities via the game's physics engine. A related but separate ghost wall trick removes the collision hitbox from the flat sides of blocks. With this, you can mount a Hoik without needing electronics to actuate blocks. Although time-consuming to build, it's a fun and powerful trick for rapid transport accessible right from the start of a new world. Each Hoik tooth moves a player by 1, 2 or 3 tiles per game engine tick. That's 60 to 180 tiles per second. Autobiographical note, being the first to document all of this is what launched my channel 8 years ago, and still accounts for most of my views now. Anyway, back in CoreKeeper, there's no way to make diagonal blocks, and that probably wouldn't be useful anyway. The player character model easily fits within a single tile, and is slim enough to fit into a half tile split by a horizontal fence or door. The developers actually showed off how characters and mobs are literally 2D sprites in a 3D world, so the vertically slim collision box kinda makes sense. But a vertically closed door does push the player out, potentially overlapping them with solid blocks. Gaps in the floor are treated the same because the player can't fall or drown. If you remain jammed in for about 2 seconds, the game assumes you're impossibly stuck, perhaps due to a game glitch, so it resets you to your respawn point for free, which can also be done at any time via the options menu, with the downside of dropping your inventory, while building yourself into fencing is an alternative to doors. Various YouTubers have already pointed out that this can be exploited to teleport back out to a bed respawn point anywhere on the map after recalling to the core, or to choose boss fights using respawn invulnerability that persists until you move again. Partly patched now. By the way, to find out who wins this unlikely matchup, check out the original video on Teng's great little channel. Links as always in the description. I'd like to add that you can also use this trick to AFK grind running skill by building a much longer track, then holding down a key or thumbstick to repeatedly run from respawn bed to electrical door, wired on a 2-second on-off circuit like this, which is compatible with hardcore characters because it doesn't actually kill them. Anyway, CoreKeeper prefers to avoid popping the player like a giant zit. In contrast to Terraria's fixed offset, it has an order of precedence for where it is willing to deposit you instead. This can be up to 2 tiles away after closing off the more preferred options. It also depends upon exactly where in the door tile you are standing. For example, you need to be at the top to go 2 tiles up, or the bottom to go 2 tiles down, etc. These displacements always leave the player in the middle of a tile, which means that you get pushed left by default, so that a rightwards chain can only work when you are holding the key to move in that direction. Same for straight up and down, hence there are no AFK Hoik loops here, sadly. The electrical door's collision box currently changes to closed as soon as it starts animating, but the displacement jump takes 4 to 5 game ticks to kick in. With the game having 30 physics ticks per second, that usually looks like about 8 or 9 frames in the video recordings. Each logic gate delays the signal by 1 tick, so 4 are needed between each door, and 5 are used in practice to avoid getting stuck sometimes. 5 ticks per jump means 6 jumps per second. With a maximum horizontal distance of 2 tiles each, that limits the top speed to just 12 tiles per second, roughly the same as minecarts. If the game's developers were to make physics jumps more immediate, that could increase the top speed up to 5 times. But I expect they'd prefer to avoid high-speed player movement. I think that would strain the game's performance too much, with all the terrain and object loading and unloading. This speed-optimized design clearly requires a large amount of electronics, and so a lot of metal for crafting. For each 2 tiles of horizontal travel, that's 5 logic gates, 2 generators, a bunch of wire, and the automatic door itself. This saturates all the available ground space either side due to the wiring system's bulkiness. For simpler wiring that's much slower, but more friendly to bidirectional travel, you can alternate which doors open versus close, like this. It simply inverts the logic signal to half of them from the 1-second delay circuit oscillator. This cycles the doors every 64 ticks, but electric doors can reliably cycle as fast as every 44 ticks, if you use a much bigger logic gate loop clock like this instead. Ultimately, these are clearly all just novelty builds. I think they're more similar to the electronic elevators than real Hoiks in Terraria. These CoreKeeper door Hoiks can't even be used in complex AFK farms. While they will pop players out onto a conveyor, There's no way to get deposited back inside a doorway, and I've really tried to make this work. They can't shift NPCs either. Although they can be made to overlap furniture via a couple of different methods, their displacements are seemingly randomized, ignoring even chasms. So I've looked pretty hard for something that might help make a fully passive Hoik run, but I couldn't find any furniture or object configuration to trick the displacement code into dumping a player where they shouldn't be, such that it might kick them off again immediately. I expect those watching this in the future will see a few changes in game behaviour, given that Core-Keeper is still very much early access here. So I really hope you found this video interesting regardless. And if you've not bought the game yet, maybe check out my previous video for a more general overview of Core-Keeper.